Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Calvas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker who is going to talk about turning your thesis into a book. Research conducted as a part of PhD is valuable. It is valuable for the researcher who has spent countless hours carrying out the work. But can the research be valuable to broader audience? The answer is simple yes. At the heart of the many successful academic book lies research conducted as a part of PhD, and converting the entire PhD thesis into a book requires multiple things which you will learn and you will come to know in this session. So indeed, a very interesting topic and you will learn so many things in this session because we have an expert with us in today's session. So stay tuned because an amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So before we start, I would like to thank Calvas for arranging such enlightening sessions, for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Calvas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world-renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their experiences, recommendations, and suggestions, which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually, as well as to contribute to the world in a positive way. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have an amazing person as guest. He is an internationally known and recognized speaker, a man performing multiple tasks simultaneously, having a dynamic personality and great qualities. He is a great human being who is always ready to contribute to the world in different positive way and ready to share his knowledge. So let me introduce him formally. He is a professor and head of Department of Media and Communication Studies from the University of Malaya. He holds a PhD in magazine publishing and masters in book marketing. His specialization include publishing, journalism, social media, and culture studies. As of 2022, he has published 98 journal articles, 28 books, 5 edited books, 22 books chapters, 21 chapters in proceeding. Some of his works have been published in Web of Sciences and Scopus journals. Apart from the research activity, he has been supervising a number of PhD students and he is currently supervising the 38 PhD students. He has been appointed as an internal and external examiner for master's and PhD thesis and also as a curriculum reviewer for various universities. He is also the founder, president, Malaysia Editor Association. Last but not the least, he is a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest professor, Dr. HAMEDI Muhammad Adnan. Welcome to the Calvas platform and thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's a really pleasure to have you, Prof. And a gentle reminder to the audience that Prof will be presenting and he would leave time for question answer session at the end of the session. If you have any question, please write in comment section or you can email us at info@calvas.com. So over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Haider. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening and greetings from Kuala Lumpur, University Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Haider to get me involved in this webinar. Actually, publishing books from a thesis is a consistent seminar or webinar that I conducted for I think for more than 20 years. And I from those webinar or seminar, I managed to help lecturers to publish their books from their thesis. Uh, Okay. Thank you, Dr. Haider, for the introduction. I don't want to repeat the thing that has been said by Dr. Haider. Only maybe one addition is that my current PhD students now is 42, 42 current PhD student, and so far I managed to produce 27 PhD students. Okay, our topic today is to transform, to transform your thesis into a book. So these are among the topic that I will cover in this webinar. First, we will discuss on the difference between thesis and a book. And then after that, we will discuss on the stages. What should we do in transforming our thesis into a publishable book? And last but not least, we will discuss on the general mistake, the usual mistake that authors usually done when transform their thesis into a book. Okay, first I would like to start with this axiom. I think most of us, academician, I mean, you may did your PhD or you may doing your PhD for academic purpose. In academic world, this is what we call the axiom that I think most of us understand. So as an academician, we need to publish. So publish or perish. So in order to survive in academic world, we need to publish, irrespective of the thing that we publish, whether articles or books. And if we don't publish, then we have to accept that finally we will perish in this world. So I think there's no other excuse. We have to force ourselves to publish. And one of the easiest way to publish is to publish from our thesis, because everything is there. Everything is there for us to manipulate. Whether we want to publish in papers or in the book form. So what is different? Why people publish in a book, and some other people publish in the paper or in article journal? So I think you need to go back to your institution, because the requirement of each institution is different. For me at the University of Malaya, of course, articles published in the index journal, in the Scopus or in ISI journal, is matter most than published in a book. If you want to get promotion in our university in Malaya, you need to have certain numbers of articles, ISI or Scopus articles. But for book, it is not. I can say that the 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 what the requirement is not as urgent as articles. But you need to have books. For example, if you want to get promotion from assistant lecturer to associate professor, at least you need to have one book. Uh, and for professor, you at least you need two books. But as I told you that it is not the utmost important. You need to have papers in ISI or in Scopus to get promotion. But why people publish book? It is because of communication. Compare with article or a journal. For books, we communicate with a lot more of audience. If your intention is to disseminate your knowledge, you want to disseminate your knowledge to public, to all sectors of people, then books is the answer. But if you want to publish for a very limited number of readers or audience, or you publish for expert, then you publish in the papers or in the article. But why book publishing? Why book publishing is matters? Because through books you can disseminate your knowledge to a lot of other people. Your segment of readers are not limited to academician or expert. Even layman will finally, if you publish in the book form, they will get the benefit of your knowledge. So if you are Muslim, in Muslim, we are urged as I mean, as a people, we are urged to disseminate knowledge to a lot to other people through the medium that can reach them easily. So in this case, if we compare books and articles, book is the medium, the right medium for us to disseminate our knowledge to a lot more people. That's why the word publish, the word publish, book publishing. The word publish means to make people know. So people means layman here. So you have, I mean, as an expert in your field, you want to disseminate, you want to share your knowledge with people, with the layman people. So that's why uh, please uh, as most of you are academician, please try to publish your ideas in the book form. Of course, at the same time, you don't ignore the importance of publishing in the papers published in the journal, which matters most for academician. Okay, so this is the thesis or the dissertation form that we or you may have. So this is a thesis. I mean, the concept of thesis, dissertation, and also what else? Thesis. This is actually a standard term that used for academic report. For academic for academic report, only for thesis is for research. While dissertation is normally used to refer academic project which the thesis is partial requirement of the certificate. But normally we will refer to thesis, whether thesis for PhD or thesis for masters. But for in British standard, they use the word thesis to cater uh, academic report or research report which based on full research. In the US, they use dissertation because dissertation is partial, partly requirement. Beside dissertation, they also need to pass in the coursework. So we will use thesis as a general term used to refer to the research report that we normally submitted to our institution to get PhD or to get thesis. So all of us, I assume that all of us have our own thesis, master's thesis or PhD thesis, and we want to use the content of the thesis to disseminate knowledge that we gain from the research to other people. So as I told you earlier, if you want to share your knowledge or your finding to your peers or your uh, expert, then you write the article to be published in the journal. But if you want to share the content of your thesis to your students, for example, your undergraduate students, so book is the answer. So that's why books is disseminate more compared with article. Article is only consumed by expert, by people in the academic world, while books is not only consumed by expert but also will consumed by public, or students that needs or to know our knowledge. So this is our task or our objective today, to turn the thesis that we have to books. And bear in mind that if you have one thesis, it doesn't mean that at the end you will have to publish only one book. So from one thesis, you can publish one book or two books or three books. So depend to the creativity that you have while transforming the content of your thesis into books. Sometimes you only you take only your literature from the thesis, and based on the literature you can publish one book based on your literature. And sometimes you only use part of the finding. Let's say that in your thesis you have three objective. So that's mean in your finding you will have three different finding. So you can take one of the finding that you have in the thesis to publish one book. So that's mean if you have three findings in a thesis, you can publish three different books. So that is the thing that you have to understand. So that's why the capacity, or I mean, the way, because it's different from thesis to another. It doesn't mean that if you have one thesis, I mean, the way that you transform is different from a thesis to another. Some thesis, no, especially if the methodology is qualitative, maybe it's easier to be published than the thesis which the methodology is quantitative. So at the end, you need to always ask yourself, always ask your audience. Audience is very important in transforming a thesis into book. We will discuss that later. So now what is different between thesis and a book? Because you need to understand the difference. Because from that different, we can transform, we can change our thesis into a good book. Okay, so the first difference is the purpose. The purpose for the thesis is different to the purpose of the book. For the thesis, the purpose is to demonstrate your ability in research. So I think you have experience in your Viva Voce that the examiners or the panel members in your Viva Voce ask you about your study, about your research. So you will defend your research. You will tell them the issue to be studied, and then the problem statement of your study, and also your objective of study, and then your finding, and then your conclusion. So thesis is everything about research. So you in your thesis you are writing, you are reporting your study. So the word research is you can find the word research in a lot of places in your thesis. Because your purpose is to demonstrate your ability. People will judge you on your ability to do research and to report your study. But for book it's different. For books, the purpose is not to show your study, not to report your study. For book, the purpose is to communicate, to communicate ideas, to share your finding, to share your finding to your readers, to your audience. So it's different. So that's why when you transform your thesis into book, you need to change the purpose from reporting your study, reporting your research, to telling your readers about your finding. So that's mean in a book you don't mention your research, your study. That's why I think you will shock if I tell you that in the book there's no methodology. So you have to accept the fact that thesis in the thesis methodology is a must. You need to show, you need to tell your readers that this is the method that you use to achieve your objective. But for books, methodology is not important anymore, because your readers has also changed. We go to audience, the second one, the second difference between thesis and a book. When you write a thesis, your audience are a committee. They are committee members. They are three examiners, two external examiners, one internal examiners, and then another committee members. They are the dean, the petty dean of higher learning, and then the reps from Senate, the head department. So these people will be your audience. They are generally they are smarter than us, because they already have PhD. They are already professors. Some of them are professors. For University Malaya, all uh, all examiners must be a professor. So that means they are smarter than the student. They are smarter than you as a student. So in that case, as a student, we are a student. You are a student, and your audience are the higher people. They are know better than you in a lot of things. We assume that. So when you communicate with them, you are a student. You want to learn something. So that means you put yourself below than your audience. Yeah. So yeah, uh, that is in the thesis, for the thesis. But for books, you have to change the audience. Your audience for book is no longer expert. They are no longer expert. They are no longer professors. There are people below than you. You are upper than them. For the thesis, you are below from your readers. Your readers are your professor. They are paid. They are paid to evaluate your thesis. But for books, they need to buy your books in order to read. So what's that simple? So that means you need to change completely the audience. So for example, for the thesis, in the thesis, you don't need to mention so much. You don't need to mention in detail about something. For example, about theory. For example, so in the thesis, you may have a theory. So you don't mention in detail about your theory because your readers, they may know, they may already know about that theory. But for books, your readers are, as I told you, your student, undergraduate students. Yeah, they are people. They are people. They are audience below than you. You are smarter than them. They they salute you. You are an expert. eh? As a book author, you are expert. That's why we need to 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 publish book. Why need to publish book? Because book publishing means that the author are expert. So if you manage to have one book, that means you are expert in your field. That's why I think in the US, for example, if we can, I think we can always watch in the TV, for example, to know actually the expert that, for example, Professor John Hart, for example, the author of this book, to show that these people are authority. They have some authority in the field. So that's why do you need to publish books? Because to get that authority. Okay. So back again to the audience. When you write books, when you transfer, you adjust from your thesis into a books. What you need to do is to change the audience. The things that you did not mention in detail in your thesis, you need to mention in detail in your book. That's why one of the key I think one of the key when we write, uh, is to have your audience in our mind. So this is one of the key in successful books. So when we write, the audience that we intended to reach should be always in our mind. When we write, when we transform the thesis into books, they are always remind us that they are the reader. So that's why one of the way to always make sure that when we write, our audience is always in our mind, is to get, I mean, you can get the photo of one of your reader. For example, your reader, your intended audience are your students. So take a photo of your student, maybe the pretty one or the handsome one. Put the photos in front of your table. So when you write, when you transform your thesis into book, the people, the person in front of you will always remind you that they are the audience. So in this case, you will overcome the problem of miscommunication, because you know book publishing is communication. You want to share your knowledge, your idea to the people. If, for example, if you use the complex sentence, for example, so the idea may not go through. So by having a photo of your intended audience in front of you, so you will always be guided by them, that he or she is your audience. So bear in mind. So if you want to transfer your thesis into book, your audience, you need to change your audience, from expert to student lah. Maybe first year, second year students. The I mean the student who know little about the thing that you are an expert. Okay, so this is the second difference. So you may have already, I mean, the thesis, you may have the thesis, but you need to change. So that's why thesis, I can say that normally publishers are reluctant to publish book from a thesis, because normally this book is very hard to sell. That's why if you submit your book, your proposal to publishers in the US and the UK, normally they will turn down. They will reject your manuscript, because your manuscript is very specific, very specific, very focused to the limited market. So what you need to do is to enlarge, to make sure that your market is big. So that's why uh, 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 you need to adjust the content of your thesis. And then the third difference of thesis and the book is the author. When you write a thesis, you are students. You are student, you want to learn, you want to show your capability of doing research, and then you will report your study. You are student. So that's why you should be always below from your reader. Your reader are expert. So you are communicating with expert. But for books, you are no longer communicating with expert. You are communicating with your students. We can assume students can be public, or at least they can be your peers. But by assuming that they are students, it can help you to tone down your language, or the way your tone, or the way you're presenting ideas. So that's why, as I told you earlier, when you publish book, you are expert. People are people look high at you. You are at the top. people will look you, will look at you at the top. They will always, uh, always what always respect you as the as the as the author. Compare with the audience. For the well, sorry, compare with the thesis. For the thesis, you are looking up for your reader. They are up there. They look you down. You, because you are student, they are professors. So the way you communicate with them is different with the way you communicate with your students in the book form. So that's why never, because they are always respect you as the person who know a lot of things. They are respect you as the expert. So never put your yourself down. For example, you may say in the thesis, you may say that limitation of your study. Your study is has limitation. The number of respondent is I mean maybe low. Or your uh, you may I mean your limitation, you may expose your limitation in your thesis. But for books, you don't expose your weaknesses. You don't expose your limitation in the book form, because people, I mean your reader are already respect you as expert in the field. So that's why a lot of things. For example, another thing that in the thesis, you may use a lot of references, lot of sources in your bibliography, uh, which sometimes it is necessary, necessary because people will judge you on how many sources that you refer in your thesis. If I were the examiner, I will check whether this student read this kind of book or not. Based on his study, I mean there are certain books that this student must read, and that student must be listed, down in the bibliography. But for books, you need to limit the number of sources. Only the sources that you use directly, you can list down in your bibliography. For thesis, I think you put a lot of you put to show that you read, to show that you are capable of the researcher. But for books, you are already expert. So people respect you because your expertise. So as an expert, you don't use a lot of sources. You have to use sources, but the number of sources need to be limit compared with the thesis. And then scope. The scope in the thesis is normally narrow. Narrow, and then in the thesis you should uh, uh, you you should explore more. You should expand the scope. That's why in the thesis, because sorry, in the book, because in the book people will buy your books because of the general. If the topic is general, normally they will buy more than if the topic is very focused. So that's why if you see books from the thesis published in the US or in the UK, normally the title that they use is quite general. They don't show the focus in the focus of the study in the book, in the title. Sorry, they may explain the limitation in the preface of the book. So the scope, you need to expand your scope. So that's mean if you want to expand the scope, your thesis need to be improved. You need to add. So this is another thing. Said I think there's no such kind of you publish your book without any improvement. It is rarely happen unless you are doing history, doing history or doing the maybe law. But for other, uh, for other field, normally you it's very difficult to publish your thesis as it is. You need effort is compulsory for you to add or to improve. To sometimes adds means you only use one or two chapter in your thesis. The rest need to be added. Uh, of course, if your structure of the thesis is chapter 1 introduction, chapter 2 literature review, chapter 3 methodology, chapter 4 finding and discussion, and chapter 5 conclusion. So if this is the structure of your thesis, then you need to transform. You need to add a lot more, because no such for books. There's no. The structure is not like the thesis. There's no methodology in your book. No literature review. The title literature review shouldn't be in your thesis. And also finding and discussion. There's no such kind of chapter in your book. But for thesis, yes. That's why you need to transform. And then the transformation, the level of transformation is different from one thesis to another. So your friend's thesis maybe needs a very minimum transformation. While yours, because you are studying quantitative, you do the survey to people, and then so you need to do a lot more effort to transform. So at the end, the key is audience. If you need, that's why the importance of having a photo of your reader in front of you. You need to always ask, is this content uh, uh, can be can interest for them? So what they need, you always ask. So by having that photos, it will help you a lot, to transform your thesis. Otherwise, you may publish books, but no people will read your book. I think that's why you need to change. You need to transform, and the level of changing transformation is different. Then it needs your creativity on that. And then the next different is the style and tone. Of course, for the thesis, the style is we use passive voice. Passive voice. We rarely use active voice. But for books, because for books, because you are disseminating, you are sharing ideas with your students. No longer with your examiners. Then the use of tone, you need to mix the use of tone. It also the use of language. The word, the sentence that you use. Uh, the better, the shorter is better than the longer sentence. And then last but not least is the documentation. So in the thesis, part of the elements that examiner will look is documentation. So documentation means the citation. For example, you cite uh, your ideas from books or from article, and then documentation. Sometimes if you study, if you use the qualitative study, you do the in-depth interview, you will uh, you will present some of the quotation. What your respondent use in your study. So documentation is a lot in the thesis. But for books, you need to limit the number of documentation. Documentation can be there, but not in the not in the the number. You should reduce the number. For example, in the thesis, you may use a lot of direct quotation. In block quotation, the block quotation, So you direct quote what people said about something. But in your thesis, some of the time you need to rephrase. You need to replace the quotation, not to put all the quotation in your book. Yeah? Okay, I think by understanding the difference between thesis and the book, you will overcome some of the problem that you may face in transforming your thesis into a book. Okay, I think we move to other uh, topic. So this is just to remind you of your audience. So when you write a thesis, uh, these are people who may your your readers, your audience. They are people, they are expert, they are professors. They are very limited number. So this is the thesis that you submit for them to read. And most of them are paid. They are paid to read your thesis. So that's why if your thesis is very boring, they need to write. That means, I mean, so they need to read in order to prepare a report. And they paid for I mean for them to read. But for books, these are your audience. Sometimes you do not know who will read your books. But in order to make it easy for you to assume your potential or your target readers, I think your student, first year, second year student, third year student, the undergraduate student that you may have, they should be the audience that you should intend. You should intend it for the content of your book. Okay, so now I think most of you have a thesis now. So these are choice. This that you can that you can choose. One is to forget it. So after listening my lecture about the difference of thesis and book, so some of you may forget forget it. Just let the thesis rest in the library. Because I mean, it's uphill task. Sometimes very uphill task to transform the thesis, especially if you intend. I mean, if you want to publish your books in the US or in the UK, yeah, they are very selective when they make decision on the title they want to publish. They will judge the number of readers. So you need to supply them with the number of readers that you may have that will buy the book, and then they will decide on the number of potential readers that they have. So that's why very difficult for studies for thesis in the third world, in Malaysia, in Pakistan, or in Bangladesh, to be published by US publisher or publishers in the UK. So if that the case, so you may just put your thesis in the library. People, students who are doing their PhD or masters, they will go to the library to read your thesis. But of course, you can write. You can write articles. I think this is one of the things that you must do. Because some people said that PhD thesis is the climax of the people's ability of study or research, of doing research. For me, I think I I agree with that idea. I mean, but maybe the Haider, you are still you are you are still young, and then you can write articles. Manipulate as long as you can, as many as you have, as you can, to publish your thesis in the article. But some people say, for some people, transform in the book form. Why book? Because book will last forever. Compare with articles. Articles is consumed by a very limited number of person. But for books, it will be consumed by people, by a lot of people, and it will lasted. I mean, it will be if we have, once you publish your book, it will be survive. It will survive for many decades. So that's why people still, especially in the social sciences, they prefer yeah, to publish book. Of course, article also they publish, but books is also is another medium, for them to I mean to publish. As I told you earlier that as a lecturer, some of you may lecturer, as a lecturer, when we died, our book will survive. So the content of our book will help us, will contribute to I mean to us, will save us in the later in the later life. So that's why uh, I think by publishing books, satisfaction is more. I mean, for myself, I can assure you that by publishing book, your satisfaction is more than to write Q1 articles. Okay, so these are some of the books that have been published. This is in Malaysia, and these are from thesis, from a thesis. And then this you see here, the uh, published by the American Sociological Association, paying for the party, how college maintains inequality. So this book is from the thesis. You can sometimes you can see that some of the book is authored by more than one person. Although this is from the thesis, and for some author, they invite other people, to help them to transform, the thesis, to book, and some of them they name the supervisor, as the first author, to give them some maybe some security, for the student, for the new student, by having the supervisor in front of them. It makes them secure, from criticism. All right, now we go to the stage, of transforming your thesis. First, you need to do an assessment. You need to assess, whether your thesis is worth to be published or not. And then after you do the assessment, so you do the homework. You need later we will discuss each of this, and then develop a plan in transforming your thesis, and then at the end you prepare the book proposal, or contact the publisher. Now we discuss one by one assessment. So I think by not all books, not all book is suitable for. Sorry, not all thesis is suitable for books. Sometimes only one chapter, yeah, out of 5 chapter that you have in your thesis, the only chapter that suitable to be expanded for books is only your literature review. Uh, but for some thesis, maybe if you do the history, the study in history, then your thesis can be published as it is. You don't need to improve. You don't need to transform anything. You just submit your thesis to the publisher, and the publisher will publish it. But what I can say is normally, based from my experience, I was the head of University Malaya Press for almost 7 years. So based from my experience, normally student or authors need to transform. So transform means to add, to delete, to adjust the content of the thesis for books. And then audience goal. So who will your audience? But as I told you earlier, the easiest audience for you to reach is your students, especially if you are a lecturer. So you may have papers for you to teach. So you may adjust the content of your thesis into the curriculum, into the content of your papers that you teach. And then the feasibility. Yeah. So sometimes, you think that from the thesis it is easier for you to publish articles. Or you may have published article, but you want books. As I told you, books means authority. You may write a lot of articles. You may uh, write a lot of uh, popular article published in the newspaper, but you are not expert yet, before you publish a book. So the first step is assess, based on your thesis, what can you do. But hopefully lah, in this case, at the end you will end up with publishing a book. And then the second one, do your homework. What need to be improved. So in this case, uh, map out professional obligation. So it is maybe the time that you have in in transforming your thesis into books. Identify publishing option. Which publisher you may read catalog, or you may check publishers who publish thesis. Generally they don't publish thesis. They publish book based on the thesis. That is the correct term to be used. They never publish a thesis, unless you publish with, I think some of you may know PT Lambert. PT Lambert or Common Ground. These are what we call predatory for book publishing. Uh, so this company may contacted you. Once you finish your PhD, they may contact you uh, to pay. To publish your thesis through them, through PT Lambert, and then they will do the very minimum editing, and they ask you to pay, to contribute. So this is in this case, they may publish a thesis. But for publishers in the US, in the UK, because their intention when they publish, they need to sell, because they are private publishers, they are commercial publishers. When they publish, they have to make sure that it will return, it will give them return in the form of money. So that's why they don't publish thesis as it is. You need to do a lot of things before they satisfy that the manuscript can be published. So do your homework. Check the you may read other books that has been published from the thesis. See how they arrange the chapters. There's no longer 5 chapter for books. This introduction, of course. Later if we have time, we can discuss more about this. And then develop a plan to transform your thesis into a book. So you are busy as the lecturer, you are busy as student, so you need to allocate the right time, to finish your transformation. Otherwise, it will take a long time. Some people they don't have time. Once they finish their PhD, they straightly go back to work, and then they have to teach a lot of papers, so they don't have time to sit and then to develop, to transform their thesis. But some people said it is good. It is good. If according to one of the author in the US, when is the right time to publish your thesis? She said that you need to chef. You need to chef your thesis for what? For 10 years. For 10 years before you publish it. So she said that if you chef your thesis in certain time, in more than 10 years, you will manage to look your topic, or you to look your study uh, fairly. Fairly, then just after finish your PhD, you publish the book. But I think for us, for all of us, I think if we chef our thesis for more than 10 years, I think goodbye. We will totally lost with the content of the thesis that we have. So develop your plan, your application, and then it needs very planning. Although you already have your thesis, it's different. It's different. You need to transform. To transform, it needs to, yeah. If you did your thesis in 3 years, so you may need more time enough to transform your thesis into a book. But don't worry about this. There are people who manage to publish their books, even eh, some of them. It is a true story, that this author, he managed to publish his book before he passed his PhD. eh. So I think, but of course, with several, changes, here and there, with transformation, for the chapter, he managed to publish that. Okay, and then book proposal. It is this step 4. Book proposal is very important, especially for publishers in Western countries. In the US and the UK, they will only entertain manuscript with proposal. This means before you want to publish books, uh, textbook or any books, not necessary books from the thesis. Before you, if you want to publish book, the first step what you need to do is to prepare your proposal. Yeah, it is like when you do your PhD, you are you prepare your proposal. You convince your panel that this study is worth to be done. It's also the same with book. You need to write a proposal, and you need to convince the editor that your book is worth to be published. So these are things that you need to mention in your proposal. What is your manuscript about? Why it is important? And then the table of content. Who are your audience? Uh, is there any books, any similar book which has been published before? Status of your work, and then your contact, your marketing contact, your Facebook, your Twitter. It's very important. When the book is published, then it is easier for you to market the book as the author, to market the book. And then who will review the book? So generally, proposal is very important, to be. For you to prepare in order to convince the editor of the publisher to publish your work, your thesis in this case. I'm not familiar in Pakistan, but in Malaysia, some publishers, some university press, they need book proposal, but some not. Some they are willing to accept. Directly. You don't need to send your proposal uh, before you submit your manuscript from the thesis. So I think we are almost 1 hour. I think Haider, Dr. Haider, I think we don't have much time. It's okay. I think I will. Yeah, Dr. Haider may. Yeah.
Yes, Prof, we have unlimited time for you because the way you are explaining the things and connecting the different dots is superb, and I'm really enjoying the way you are explaining everything. Please carry on.
Yeah. Okay, I think I simplify the thing in order to maybe some of them you can read from my slide I will give you to Dr. Haider. Maybe you can distribute the slide to the participant after this. Yeah?
Sure, Prof.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
this I think I skipped this. This is another example. Yeah? This is actually from the thesis published in Western in the U.S. and this book wins the award. Wins the award of Sociological Association. For example, it is the thesis in the law in law working law, courts cooperation and symbolic rights. And then curling the messes. You can notice that if the book is from the thesis, you can notice that the title they will consist two level of title. One is the main title like this. Working law is the main title, and then the subtitle will explain in detail about the content. You see here the democratic origin of racist immigration policy in the American. So this is the detail, but this is the main title. So later, if you want to publish your thesis, you can think of your your title in front of you. So prepare the the main title and then the subtitle. This another yeah, uh, example. Love, money, and HIV becoming a modern African woman in the age of AIDS. So it is from PhD from PhD thesis. And then this book wins the American Sociological Association award. Okay, now you are the author. You are an author now. As I told you, as an author, uh, you already passed your PhD. You have the authority. Only when you publish your work. So by publishing your books from your thesis, then you will gain the authority. Okay, so for books, in the for the thesis, when you sit in the viva, this is things that you will explain to the committee. You will explain the importance of your study, objective of your study, and then your literature review, and then you apply the theory, use the methodology. So these are things that you will tell your committee about your research. But for your book, you will need to tell your editor. So the editor, you need to tell the editor of your manuscript. So what things to be explained to your editor. You need to tell them the interesting idea to the reader. That's why, as I told you earlier, that you need to prepare proposal, book proposal. So in the book proposal, you need to explain why your book is interesting. Why people will get interest in your book. Why student will like your book. So that things you need to convince the editor. Because in book publishing, you need to deal with the editor. You need to publish. If you want to publish, you need to have a publisher. So the publisher, the editor is the staff in the publishing company that will deal with authors. So they are the person, they are the people who will evaluate your manuscript. So they are the committee in the thesis, but for book, they are the editor. The editor. So I think that's why I think you have to do your homework. You get to know the editor and then communicate with them, and then prepare your proposal to for book to be published. So these are things, a lot of things you need to do when you transform your thesis into books. You may delete, you may abridge, add. I think add a lot of things. And then you revise, refine. Sometimes you need to translate. Maybe your thesis in what? Maybe your thesis in English. But your readers are not familiar in English. So you need to translate your book into the language they that they use. So in Pakistani, you need to translate into Pakistani language. For Malaysia, I think you need to translate your thesis into a Malay language because they are the reader. That's why when you do these of things, readjust, reformat, you do all these things because of your reader. Yeah, that's why the importance of having photos in front of your table. You are doing all this for your reader. They will always remind you that they are your reader. You should serve them. You should satisfy them, not satisfy yourself as the author. This is the some why works or why books fail is because author they want only to satisfy themselves as the author. They will satisfy that they think that if if readers don't understand of your idea, so you are great. You are very good because they don't understand. In fact, it is wrong. Book publishing is a communication. You communicate with your reader. You relay your idea. You share your idea with them. If they understand, if they understood what you mean, so your communication will be successful. So if your communication is successful, then your ideas will be disseminated. So you will get, benefit of book publishing by having that communication. So what's thing to be deleted? A lot of things in your thesis. Some notes. Some people if you don't use APA style, before this, you may use Chicago style or MLA style, house style. So if you use Chicago or MLA, you will use a lot of notes. Notes, the lot of notes. We call it footnotes or endnotes. Yeah? But now, if you use APA, I think in APA they don't use notes. No longer use a note. You say that's why you rarely to find notes in the thesis because students are using APA as their style. Bibliography. Also, you need to delete. Some of them you need to delete sources which are not directly relevant to your book. So maybe out of maybe 20 pages in your thesis, which consists of references or bibliography, in the book you may have 4 or 5 only. Five or five of 4 or 5 pages. And then tables. Tables means technical. So readers are not interested in tables. So that's why if you ask your student, do they like tables? They don't like, because table is nothing. What the best way for you is to present, to tell the content of the table in words, than to put a lot of tables. You you can have tables, but you need to limit the number. Graphs, abstract, no abstract for books. But the thesis, yes, you need an abstract. But for books, there's no abstract. No literature review. You still can maintain. No literature review mean no the word literature review. When you present your literature review, so your intention is to tell your readers that there are similar study that has been done in your field. Not to to review in detail, because it is only suitable for your examiners. Methodology, as I told you earlier, there's no methodology for books. Uh, but don't another term that I think you may confuse with monograph. Have you ever heard the word monograph? Monograph means mono single subject, single study, normally by single author. Monograph is a book. Uh, because some publisher monograph is the what is the thesis, is the book version for a thesis. So if you publish your book through Lambert, PT Lambert, as I mentioned earlier, you are publishing a monograph. Actually, you are publishing a monograph. Monograph is like a book, but the content is more or less same with the thesis. Uh, why people publish monograph? Because monograph, actually monograph cannot, you can't sell monograph. There's no monograph in the bookstore. People don't buy monograph. The uh, only libraries will buy monograph. So if your book is intended for public, so that's why you need to uh, transform. You don't publish what it is. If you want to publish what it is a monograph. But unfortunately, uh, I mean, it's very difficult to find to find publishers who publish monograph. Right? So normally they don't publish unless there are research center who study in what I mean. They have the focus in their study. For example, at the University Malaya, in Kuala Lumpur University Malaya, in my institution, we have the Center for Poverty. Yeah? There is a Center for Poverty. Unku Aziz Center for Poverty, we call it. So this Center of Poverty, uh, they give grant. They give grant for research on the poverty, and then a lot of studies. A lot of studies has been submit to this center, and finally they publish monograph on poverty, only on poverty. But normally for publishers, it's very hard to find any publishers who publish thesis as it is. Okay, I think we skip this. So this is my some of my books. I think we also no need. Okay, I think also okay. So this is the thesis and the book. I think some of them have been discussed before. For the thesis, the focus is narrow, but for books we need to broad. We need to broad the focus. For the thesis, the context is very minimal. For books, we need to expand the context. Passive tone we also discuss. For books, direct tone, personal direct tone, and then jargon. In the thesis, you will find a lot of jargon, a lot of terms that only understood by people in the field. But in the book, you need to change, you need to use language that the layman will understood. And then the structure of the thesis is, I told you, normally each thesis have 5 chapters: introduction, literature review, methodology, finding and discussion, and conclusion. But for book, so you need to break your chapters into several uh, break your chapters from the thesis into several chapters. So from the thesis, maybe you have 5 chapters. For books, you may have up to 10 chapters. Especially your finding and discussion in the thesis, you may have only one chapter. But for books, you may divide. You may break your chapter 4 into maybe 3 chapters. And then repetition. In the thesis, a lot of repetition. For books, I think you need to limit the number of repetition. Literature review, I think we have discussed before. For the book, limit the number of literature review methodology. Thesis, yes, you need to tell the reader of your methodology in detail. But for books, methodology is not necessary, because you are not presenting your study. You are not reporting your research anymore. You are sharing the ideas that you get from your study to your reader. So the word this study, this research, you need to delete. Yeah, you need to replace by this book. Yeah, this book. Yeah? That should be done. Multiple headings, headings, the subtitle. You need for the thesis, you may use numbers. You miss number 2.1, 2.1.1, 2 point. That is the heading that you normally use in the thesis. But for books, there's no numbers. There's no numbers for the heading. What you need is to get the different the different font. For example, level A, you need to use the bold. Level B, you need to use the italic. So these are the things that you can do. And then for the quotation, I think we have discussed the quotation before. Limit the number of quotation in your book. List, multiple lists. Sometimes in the thesis we put a lot of lists. According to in theory X, you may list down all the things. Maybe up to 10. Up to 10 in terms of list. Number one, number two, number three, until 10. And then in other page you may have another list. It end up with a lot of lists in your thesis. But in your book, in your book you need to limit the number of lists. Tables, if I told you limit the number. Footnotes, I think for APA you don't use footnote. You don't use footnote anymore. But if you use MLA style, or Chicago manual style, so footnote, there's no footnote for books. Because it will mix, it will affect the reading process. When we read and then there are notes, then readers will stop to check the notes. So that's why it's not nowadays in book publishing they eliminate the footnotes. Also, of course, also the endnotes. They Some of the publishers they are using more APA style. Okay, then a bibliography, large exhaustive bibliography for book. I think you need to select the best sources. The sources that you mentioned in the text only. Not all the sources that you read. Sometimes in the thesis, we feel. I think we think that it's not enough. The number of bibliography sources is not enough. So we put a lot of sources to show that we read the sources that we should read. But for the book, we need to be selective. List down only sources that is necessary that we mention in the book. Okay, these are mistakes that normally people do in their transformation, in the presentation, tone, documentation, audiences. I think some of them maybe just repetition. For example, abstract, there's no abstract for the books. So there no abstract for the book. So for abstract, we don't put abstract in the book. And then the introduction of the thesis, you need to improve, you need to change. Because the introduction is the introduction of your study. There's no such kind of problem statement in the book. There's no objective of study in the research question. And then what the significant, yes, you may adjust some of your significant in your thesis to put into book. But generally the introduction of your thesis will be different. It should be different from your book. So you may define in your introduction, you may define the issues that will be covered in your book. Give definition, and then what else? Introduce the issue. Introduce the issue of your book. Numbering, I think we have discussed. No numbering for the book. Numbering for the thesis. There's no 2.1 introduction, 2.2 background, or there's no such kind. So just delete the number, and then use uh, uh, the font, the standard form. Appendix, for thesis, sometimes you have a lot of appendix in your thesis, but for book, yeah. For book, appendix is not necessary. It's not necessary, for books. If you have something that you want to what you want to refer, in your book, put that instead of putting the material in your appendix, you move them in near the text that mentioned. So there's no such kind of appendix for the book, unless a long list of something. But for thesis, I mean for books, no what questionnaire. For example, questionnaire is not necessary, to be enclosed in in the appendix. Questionnaire, what else? Sometimes what the letter, the letter to the respondent, anything that related to your research, you need to eliminate, in your book. As I told you earlier, that your book is not a research report anymore. Your book is the platform for you to share your finding, with your readers. Uh, Table, figure, non-text material. This one maybe, in order to attract your readers, you may use photography. So you may take photos, in the thesis. It is maybe it's not necessary, but in order to attract your readers are your students. In order for them to understood, maybe something, so the photography maybe, you can use photography, for them to make them understood. This is the presentation. And then tone and style. This is we are now discussing about the weaknesses. Some of the weaknesses that normally authors will do in their transformation. So mix of, sometimes in the thesis, the author use single person. They use I, use you can maintain. Sometimes it's very interesting, especially if your studies is on the, you study on the, uh, yeah, when the researcher involved directly in the study. For example, you spend your time with the aborigine, with people in the village, so you do that study. I mean, you involve personally in the study, so you can maintain the first person, I, my, the one you can, but never, you don't mix the first and third party person, in your book. Some in chapter 1 you use I, in chapter 2 you use the writer. So you need to standardize the use of person. And then reporting style. In the thesis, you are reporting the finding. But in your book, you are telling. I think you need to change. You don't report. What you need to do is to tell your audience. So by telling your audience, it will be more interesting for the reader. So it will end up, you will, I mean, because the objective of book is to sharing ideas, so you will achieve that objective, if you change, the style of your writing. And then documentation, I think we have discussed, before. Too much note, quotation, too much. These are weaknesses, of, uh, of a book. If we maintain this, maintain too much quotation. I think you can have notes, you can have quotation, quotes, but limit the number. And then audience, yeah, maintain the audience of the thesis. Yeah? So this is uh, one of the weaknesses that we can find, that there's no effort, yeah, from the author to transform, their thesis to the reader, because it needs to transform, because audience is very important. You need to change the audience from the expert to the layman, to your students, and then other element need to be taken is the title, don't use the same title with your thesis, so please use, the attractive title, for your book, don't use words such as a study, a study, and then analysis, that is the word is not suitable to your reader, if the reader is your student, then they are not interested, when if your book title a study of something, so you need to have the direct the direct keyword of your book, and then the word the study, as I told you earlier, you are no longer report the study, you are sharing, you are telling your audience with the finding of your thesis. So the word this study, this thesis should be erased. And then preface. Preface in your thesis, you may have preface. So in your book, you can maintain. But of course, you need to rewrite. Because now you are publishing books, no longer submitting your thesis. So the preface need to be changed. Forward, there's no forward. Forward, no forward in thesis, but forward can be. You can ask people, you can ask expert to write a forward for your book. Forward, is written by other people. It's not written by the author, and it's not compulsory actually. But if you manage to get the forward writer, and he is known in your field, it will help you a lot in your to market your books. Easier to market your book. But it's not compulsory. But it will increase the authority of your book if you manage to get the forward, for your book. I mean, professors in your field, this is they are suitable person to write the forward, for your book. Acknowledgement is you acknowledge people who contribute in the preparation of your book. So you may name their name in the acknowledgement. Photographs, photographs you, I mean, because your reader, your potential audience, your audience are people, So by having photograph which is related to your books, it will increase the possibility, of your book to be sold better. And then index. There's no index in your thesis, but in your book you need to prepare the index. But the index is uh, final stage. Once your book is already accepted by the publisher, and then publisher do the copy editing, they do the layout. Before the book is sent for printing, you need to prepare the index. The index. The index is the pages you can refer to at the end of the book. You can find index. And that is the location. The location of the keyword that mentioned in the book. It is used normally by researcher. So it is quick. If they want to locate uh, which page numbers, the keyword is referred in the book, they they only refer to the index. This is compulsory for scholarly books. Okay, how thick the book? I can say that your book shouldn't. Yeah, the good book, I can say the good book is between 200 to 250. Yeah, within that range. So in your manuscript, because your manuscript, you need to submit your manuscript in the printed form, or in the, it is like the thesis, like your thesis. So you will use the double spacing, single. So for the thesis, the good book is between, I can say, 250 to 300 pages. That is the what, the ideal books, the ideal thickness of the book. It's not too thin, not too thick. And then, because for for scholarly books, because your price, the price of your book will depend to the thickness, of your book. That's why if your book is very thick, it's very difficult to sell. So that's why, this doesn't mean that one thesis, one book. From one thesis, you can publish one, two, three books. So if your book is too thick, then you can break into two. And then, this is manuscript of the thesis. I told you already. Language, I told you already, depend, to the final consumer, final reader, who will be who will read your books. You need to use the language that is suitable to your reader. Yeah. So it needs, sometimes it needs to be translated into the local language. Or from the local language, you can translate into international language, English. Depend to the reader. And then balance of the chapter, this chapter, if you can see your thesis, there are chapters which are thicker, thicker than the other chapter. For example, chapter 4 is, I think you may have 100 pages, for chapter 4. And chapter 2 also, you may have a lot of numbers. Chapter methodology, you may have less than 50 pages. So that means in the thesis, there's no balance of the chapter. But for the books, you need to make sure that the content of the chapter is more or less the same. So you may estimate now, every chapter in your book consists of maybe 30 pages. So if you have, for example, eight chapter, so you have maybe 240 pages, something like that. And then copyright, I think a lot of issues on the copyright, but it depends. For international publishers, once you use other people's rights, you need to get permission from them. So for the thesis, it's okay. From the thesis, you can reproduce any tables from other source, from other books. You just mention the source. You just credit the source. But if you want to publish books, then in Western countries, they need you to directly approach the original publisher and get the copyright clearance, from them. If not, they will not publish that copyrighted materials. Uh, what tables, sometimes picture, then you need to have that right, to have the clearance, uh, before you publish the books. And then appendix, I told you already about the appendix. And then last but not least is the author's role in marketing. So when the book is published, normally publishers will ask you uh, to help marketing the book. So normally, I don't know, if you, as I told you, if your intended audience is your student, so it's very easier for you to market the book. But beside that, so you also need to have social media, you need to have Twitter, Facebook, now TikTok. So this platform is necessary, for publisher to, for you to help publishers in promoting your book. Otherwise, the book is very difficult to be sold, especially for uh, I mean uh, I mean, for scholarly book, it's very quite difficult to publish. Okay, I think Dr. Haider, this I think we stop at this because this is actually repetition of the things that I already mentioned about. And
Right, Prof.
I think this is, elsewhere. Elsewhere is the largest commercial publishers in the world. 10% of their books is indexed under Scopus. This is another thing which is very interesting today, that if you publish your book with international publisher, your book will automatically index under Scopus or under ISI. This is very good. And that is why if you manage to publish your book by international publisher, so it will contribute to your H index, your citation, because their book is indexed not only the papers, but journal, but their books. Uh, but in Malaysia, in Pakistan, I believe in Indonesia, we are still on the way for our publishers to be indexed in Scopus or in ISI. Yeah. So this is good things. Elsewhere is the largest publishers in the world. 10% of the Scopus books index is published by Elsewhere. And then this is Springer books also 8%. 8% of the books that indexed by Scopus is published by Springer, and then the third 5%, it is not clear, the 5% of the books that is indexed under Scopus is published by Wiley Blackwell. So these are all commercial private publisher. And they, if you can see their books, sometimes they publish thesis from the book. Uh, and some of them, but of course, the author needs to do a lot of uh, a lot of what transformation. Then the first step is for authors to submit the proposal. They will evaluate the proposal, and if they satisfy that the book is worth to be published, they will start to communicate with the author. I think Dr. Haider, that's all for my this slide lecture. But yeah,
Thank
I,
you very much, Prof. Really, that was a great session. It was an amazing session because the way you started it was so great, so nice. Prof, let me just tell the audience that since I'm the graduate of University of Malaya, I just felt again, once again, that I'm sitting in University of Malaya and attending one webinar because the way you explain and the way you connected the different concepts, the major mistakes, and everything was so nice. As we have been attending the different seminars and different workshops when I was doing my PhD over there, and it was the same, and it was the whole day workshop, and the way you were explaining the things was the same. I love the way you started it from explaining the idea of book, that it is disseminating of the idea, that what you have thoughts and what are you going to do with that. And I love the way you explain the difference between the book and the thesis in a minute details, which was very great, right from the purpose, the audience, the author, the style, the tone, the documentation. Everything was so great. Then you discussed the stages of it, which was nice. And I love the way you mentioned that what are the things they need to consider for action and the things they need to delete and the things they need to consider in terms of the journal mistakes. And very lovely you connected again the different dots of the showing that what kind of things they need to consider and what are the different publishers, what are their percentages, and how they are connected, and indexes as well. So, Prof, E to Z, everything was so much aligned, so much control, and I could see how good grip you have on this subject. And that's why we had invited you, that because you are the expert and you explain each and every point what are nicely, And I think you have answered the questions which are 80 to 90% are already addressed, but some questions still needs your attention and clarification. So superb session. And now let's move towards the question answer session. If you allow us, should we start with the first question, please? Yeah. So the first question, Prof, they want to ask is the Assalamu alaikum, Prof. Hamedi. Is any time frame or period to convert thesis into the book after finish our PhD journey? Which one is better to publish as university publisher or book chapter? Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, you can start your project, after, just after you finish your PhD. Yeah? Because the word that we use is transform. That means you are not publish what it is. You need to transform from your thesis into a publishable book. So just after you finish your PhD, you can start. But as I told you earlier, that there are authors in Western countries that said that it is better if you put your thesis in the shelf for certain period of time, maybe in 5 years, or she said in 10 years. So after that, you can see, you can see your topics in a very different way. So you are not because normally when we transfer our thesis into book, we will use the same file, the file in the thesis, the soft copy from the thesis. We just so the best way is actually to yeah to use it, to start from scratch. So you write based on this is, but you don't use the same uh, soft copy that you have. Okay, and then the number two is the which one is better to be published, whether university press or private university. I think uh, University Press. University Press is the publisher who publish scholarly publications. So it is, I mean, chances is very high, if University Press accept and publish your works. Then private university, private commercial publishers, because their calculation is based on the number, on how many copies they can sell, if they publish the book. But for university press, normally they will have I mean, money is not their first calculation. Money was of course important, but it is not the first, as important as what private publishers do when they decide on what book to be published.
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof, for such a elaborative answer. Really a wonderful suggestions. Prof, there is one another question, and this is the young academician, and he wants your recommendation. He wants to say that, Prof, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Please share your thoughts about my career. I have just started my career as a fresh lecturer. Now, please guide me which is better, turning a PhD into a book or to many articles in terms of my career progression. Yes, please.
Actually depend to the requirement in your institution. For some institution, uh, publication, I mean, publication in the terms of articles, in the journal is not as important as book. But for most university, I believe, is especially if you engage in the research university, then you need to publish articles in journal. That is because I mean, for example, in Malaysia, we have five research university: University Malaya, University National University, Science University, Putra University, and then Technology University. So we have five research university, and for this university, the first criteria, the main criteria is publishing in the index journal, which is ISI or Scopus. Uh, but my advice is for you, I think, see your the requirement, the policy of your institution, and then from them I think you can judge which which track that you can follow. But of course, everywhere people are looking for your papers, than your book. As I told you, book is for, yeah, I mean, for more satisfaction, and then for you to disseminate to a lot more people. But if you want to show your expertise, expertise in your field, and then if you want to be judged by your peers, then of course, research papers or articles in the index journal is
Yeah.
more important.
Thank
I
you
think
very
that's
much, Prof. Very nicely, you have mentioned that they need to consider the institutional policy first so that
yeah,
they are more concerned regarding the career
yeah.
progression. Very nice suggestion, Prof. And that speaks for your experiences, which is wonderful. Prof, there is one another question which is very nice as well. They want to ask that, Prof, please guide me. I'm getting a lot of invitation for book chapters related to my field. Please guide me about the royalty, which one provides the best royalty, and please explain the royalty process for us. Yes, please.
Okay, generally, I'm so sorry to tell you that generally for academic publishing, the royalty is very small. The royalty is very small. If you want to get a lot of money, don't publish in scholarly works. Publish in the popular works, which a lot of people will buy. But of course, it is very interesting that you mentioned about the publishing in the book chapter, which is now very good, what I can say, very good opportunity actually for young lecturer, to contribute in the book chapter. And some of the publishers, they index the chapter in book, the chapter in the book as the same level with the article. So it is good opportunity, but don't think much about the royalty, because generally the number of copies that they print is very small. Uh, I mean, they need a lot. I mean, they need a lot of time, for before they can what uh, they can gather the profit, from the venture. Uh, but of course, they have the what the their mode of payment, and then I can say that uh, also very small. The number is very small. Right? Uh, Normally, because the now, because of the technology today, the technology that we have today is to print book whatever copies you want. Even you can print only one copies, for one book. We have the what we call the digital publishing, print on demand, whereby you can print only one copy. It's not like before, where publishers print a lot of copies into to save costs. But today, because of this technology, publishers normally they print in a very small number. Uh, for example, in Malaysia, some of the publishers they publish only. I mean, they print only 50 copies, and then they sold the copies. Once the copies is sold, then they can reprint again. So this mean, if you contribute in the chapter in book, and the price of the book is, let's say, $30, for example. So you will share the royalty with the basic royalty is 10%, out of the price. If the price is $30, then the total royalty is only 10%. That means $3. and you will share that $3 with the other contributors in the book. Let's say there are 10 contributors, yeah? They are sharing $3 for each book, yeah? Depend to the number of chapter that you contribute. So what I want to say is that generally the royalty is very small, eh? Don't expect much, from the royalty, but expect from the index, the publication that you can use, to enhance your career later. That is more important than to think about
Right.
royalty.
Yes,
If you
Prof.
want to get
Thank
money, you
you.
publish in the commercial, publish the popular books, book which a lot of people will buy. Yeah.
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Really, the way you are answering is so nice and so much the exposure you have and so much great experiences you have. So that's why you have mentioned that where we need to shift our focus from royalty to the actual contribution, which is much better in terms of the field. Prof, one last question, which is very again important question, and they want to have your opinion. You have explained it, but since this is a specific case, so please share your suggestion with them. They want to ask that, Prof, thank you for your wonderful presentation. Please guide me. Can I include new author in my PhD work who will contribute by improving the work, or should I publish my book with my supervisor only? Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, I think there's a lot of cases where students, in order to, yeah, I mean, because your supervisor is known than you. Yeah? So by putting your supervisor's name as the co-author with your book, it will increase the authority of your book, and it will increase the possibility, of the book to be sells more. So there's no issue for that. Yeah? Uh, but yeah, and then also the arrangement, which name first, I think, because now the work is yours, the work is yours, the work is owned by the student. If you use other people's name, of course you need to get the uh, permission, to get the permission from your supervisors, because some supervisors, they are reluctant, their name to be used by the student. First you need to get the permission, and then uh, if you put your supervisor's name in your works, your supervisor will also take responsibility. It's not free. He or she also uh, also faces responsibility as you. For example, if the book, I mean, if other people is not satisfied with the content of the book and they bring you to the court, your supervisor will also involve. They are not free. So is I mean, supervisors need to understand, that when their name is used, then they also need to take the responsibility if anything happen to the book. But it is okay. And people are doing that. If you
Yes.
put your supervisor's name there, it will increase the authority of your book. Will increase, the possibility of the marketing of the book. It's a
Yes,
good,
Prof.
yeah.
True, very true. Thank you very much, Prof. I'm really enjoying the way you are answering. But since we have a time limitation, we have taken almost double of your time. Thank you. You are a very generous person. Prof, at the end of the session, we ask each our guest, what is your message to the world? So, Prof, what is your message to the world as a speaker, author, teacher, researcher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator? Yes, please.
Yes, very simple. Please produce books. Please publish book. Yeah, because books will be forever. Thank you.
Wow, Prof, what a nice message you have given, which is very relevant to the our topic today as well. That publish, and I love one of your sentence that we publish for satisfaction, and if we publish books, it means we will be there for decades and maybe till the last, because it will be our It will remind about us to the world. People may forget our manuscript, but they will not forget our books. So we can be survived by the books. So thank you once again, Prof. Really enjoyed this session with you. To the audience, please do follow the distinguished guest speaker through his research work, and you can email him for future learning and guidance. He is very generous and always ready to help the people. Moreover, wonderful explanation and powerful content which the great speaker has already elaborated will help you to learn and develop your understanding regarding the how to turn your thesis into a book. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you once again, Professor Dr. Hamidi Muhammad Adnan. And I would also like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have any additional question about information shared today, please email us or connect to the speaker directly through his email or social media. Thank you all for your support and liking our session. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way. Please do not miss any session. And next session, take care of yourself. Bye bye.